We're going to rewind to the beginning of America. I'm actually going to spend my 4th of July here in Germany. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning, because in the beginning there was the law firm. About 200 years ago, the modern law firm gets founded in New York City. The design of the modern law firm has stayed pretty much unchanged, and actually the modern law firm is still quite good at that which it was designed to do. It does something that is extremely valuable, and for that reason, there's a lot of lawyers that make a lot of money. In fact, there are some very, very rich lawyers, especially in New York, London, and Silicon Valley. And so the amount of money that goes to law firms goes up and up and up. And yet, we've seen recently a very interesting dynamic, which is it's not going up for everybody, even at the biggest firms in the world. And so the perception of the largest law firms is that they're always on an upward trajectory in terms of how much they're making, how much they're bringing in, how much they're paying their partners. And in fact, for many years, there was a secret as a lawyer to making more and more money. And I'll let you know what it was, because it's past tense. What it was is that you joined a good law firm and then you didn't die. If you did that, you were going to make more money year over year, but that was a long time ago. And in fact, the perception of the big law market is very different from the reality of the big law market. And so this is the AmLaw 100. AmLaw is the American Lawyer. It's a magazine. And since 1985, they've been publishing the financial performance of the largest law firms in the US and now in the world. And law firm performance has fallen off. If you extrapolate out from the period from 1990 to 2007, which is our inflection point, to 2007 to now, the AmLaw 100 is 94% off their gross revenue trend. They're also 26% off trend on headcount. Now, those two don't quite line up. They're way more off revenue trend than headcount trend, which tells us that something interesting is happening with revenue per lawyer, which is probably the best metric for looking at the health of a particular law firm for a variety of reasons. They are off revenue per lawyer trend. In fact, when you adjust for inflation, which you always should, they are essentially flat on revenue per lawyer since 2007. If we clean up that statistical noise, that's what the revenue per lawyer trend looks like at the biggest and most profitable firms in the world, who, by the way, are doing better than anyone who's smaller than them. Now, this might surprise you. A lot of things surprise legal departments about law firms, including their annual hunger for rate increases. Another thing that might surprise you is, despite all of their clamoring for rate increases, their increase on legal technology has increased faster than their rates. And this was true before AI entered the chat. And that's because they've seen that revenue per lawyer erode. As I said, they're still good at what that which they were designed to do, which is this cream work. But they struggle with the core, and especially the commodity work. They're not very good at that, things that present us with scale and organizational complexity. But that money that left the large law firms, it went somewhere. Well, where did it go? And it definitely didn't all go to technology. Where did that money go? Anyone? Well, it went to you. It went to in-house departments. I told you the modern law firm came into being about 200 years ago. At the time, corporations sole sourced their legal work. That is, they sent it to a law firm who gave them a big bill for services rendered, and that was it. It wasn't until about 40 years ago that we started having this different species known as in-house counsel. The law department is a relatively modern development, and it's grown extremely quickly. At least in the US, in-house departments have grown at about 7 times the rate of law firms since the middle of the 1990s. There are now more in-house lawyers in the United States than there are lawyers in the domestic offices of the AmLaw 200. That is the largest 200 law firms by revenue. Not only are in-house counsel the largest segment of suppliers of legal services to corporations, they're actually the largest buyers of all legal services, period, at least in the US. 54% of all legal services purchased in the United States are purchased by a corporation with one or more in-house counsel. The locus of activity for legal has moved in-house. But I hate to break it to you, when I say almost everyone is bad at this core and commodity work, I do mean everyone. And that includes in-house counsel, many of whom feel like they have to run faster and faster just to fall behind more slowly. The best survey data we have, and this is actually global, is that 100% of in-house counsel report being burned out. They're overwhelmed by the chaos and complexities of the world. They're drowning in work. They're being asked to do more and more, faster and faster. Just a simple example of this, the data explosion. I'm sure none of you have ever heard of GDPR. Data explodes. So we didn't have a digital world, and then we did. And now all of a sudden we have this data, and this data creates complexities in and of itself. And yet we, lawyers, of course, need to add to that complexity by writing rules and regulations around it. And so this complexity, when it comes to law, compounds. That is, the complexities of the world intersect with legal complexities to create double or an exponential growth in complexity. Now, corporations try and deal with this a lot of ways, but most of them are by creating additional teams. That is, legal is overwhelmed, well, we create a new function called compliance or privacy or whatever, or what have you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with these other functions, and some of them at some companies certainly should be big enough to be their own function. And yet what corporations fail to do is create the cross-functional collaboration necessary. And no matter how many teams you create, it doesn't stem the tide of new rules, new regulations, new requirements, which get us stuck in this ever-deepening complexity cycle. And this complexity cycle adds friction to corporate decision-making. In an environment where we're expected to move faster and faster, our organizations actually end up moving slower and slower because of the burden of this complexity. And so that's why essentially everyone is bad at this scale complexity, at this organizational complexity. The Gordian knot of in-house existence, I don't have to tell you, rising demand, flat resources, short time horizons, and accountability without authority as you face a regulatory tsunami and excessive workloads. There's got to be a way out, right? Well, we hope so. The newest way out they're calling GenAI. But fundamentally, what we all want GenAI to do is solve for scale. That is, we want better outcomes from a relatively lower input of resources. And that means various levels of automation of various tasks. There's a lot of hope that GenAI is going to fundamentally transform what we do. And there's a lot of disappointment about whether GenAI is going to fundamentally. We are assuredly in a hype cycle. But here's the thing about hype cycles. They always accompany a technological inflection point. So you can have hype without a technological inflection point, but you're never going to have a technological inflection point without hype. And so the answer to the question, is AI overrated or underrated, is? Anyone? The answer is yes, because it's both. We've now achieved with words what we previously achieved with math in terms of what computers can do. They can now read because we've translated words into numbers at a sufficient level. And yet we are very, very early days. And one of the things we found in the early days is that AI is weird. Probably the best study of how weird AI is in the context of knowledge work came out of Harvard. It's about the jagged frontier of AI capabilities. It's a jagged frontier because there are tasks that are inside and tasks that are outside the frontier. On tasks that are inside the frontier, the AI is extremely helpful. On the tasks that are outside the frontier, the AI is actually harmful. Here's the fun part. The frontier is invisible. No one knows where it is. And when I say no one, it was not intuitive to either the researchers or their test subjects before or after they conducted the study. Now again, inside the frontier makes an enormous amount of difference, such a substantial level of difference that it can't be ignored. And this is particularly true about bringing it up below average performers, which I'm sure no one is, except that's not how averages work. Outside the frontier, however, worse. And again, we have no idea where the front, huh? We have no idea where it is. And that's not the only thing annoying about AI. It's not currently good at what we want it to be good at, or frankly, it's best at the wrong things. It's very good at open-ended problems and very end at closed answer problems. You know, the truth, the thing that we actually want. So we get issues like hallucinations. Thankfully, there are some intrepid souls who go before us and will do things like have ChatGPT write a legal brief, and then they get caught, and then we all learn the lessons, right? Like this, once someone does this stupid thing, we never have to worry about any, well, at least it's just lawyers. We'd never have, like, I don't know, a judge do it.
Yes.
No. What do you mean yet?
We will see.
No, right there. Here's a judge.
Okay, sorry.
That did it. Yes. Yes. So, yes, we are not learning our lessons. And spoiler alert, we're probably not going to. Lots of mistakes will be made. And not just by the people making the models, but the actual businesses that employ in-house lawyers and law firms to safeguard their reputations and their bottom lines. Over and over again, we are going to see lots of mistakes being made. And because it's a bubble, we're going to see lots in volatility in the economics around these mistakes. And why? Because we're seeing organizations deploy systems they fundamentally don't understand. And yet I want to go back to the statement I just made. We are seeing them deploy those systems. So whether or not we understand them, we're deploying them anyway. And we're not just deploying them, we're making fundamental decisions about people's livelihoods, about the shape of work. It doesn't necessarily matter that we have no idea where we're going or what we're doing. We're pressing forward regardless. This may be scary, but that doesn't make it any less true. And sure, again, all kinds of mistakes are going to be made, and it's going to be very, very embarrassing in lots of instances. And yet, the spending on this technology is only going to go in one direction, and it is going to be significant. It's going to keep coming and coming, no matter where you are and no matter how much you love regulating things, it's coming. And it's coming because there's a commercial imperative, and that is we are starting to see the rise of AI-first companies, companies that are built around AI, and they have far fewer employees relative to their annual recurring revenue than the legacy companies that they are challenging. That is the critical commercial context. People leading companies are scared that they are going to face a challenger that has a much lower cost basis than they do, that can move much faster, that can adapt much faster, and therefore is going to beat them in the marketplace. This is the most critical slide of all the slides, and there's a lot of slides. What a lot of company leadership is seeing is that if we push forward, we might make mistakes, and it might end us. But if we don't push forward, we're guaranteed to make the mistake. The best estimates we have is that 80% of legal work, legal spend, is going to be affected by GenAI in the next 5 years. And sure, that's a lot of vendors who are getting a lot of funding. Here's a European company that is relatively new and doing great. They're the European analog to this company, which is only a couple of years old. And yet, as interesting as the legal tech space is, and it's very interesting to me, I'm talking about the actual delivery of legal services. We've already seen the first two AI-first law firms come into being. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, in-house counsel, they know this is coming. 96% of general counsel say that they're actually going to have to update their budgets to direct resources to dealing with risks of AI implementation by their companies. Very conveniently, 96% of general counsel believe that AI is also going to drastically reduce their costs so that they can meet these new needs. Now, in the larger law departments, those that have, I don't know if you've heard the term legal operations, but people who focus on the non-substantive parts of the department, technology, process, et cetera, when they're surveyed, 99% of them, and again, these are the large companies that I work with, say that there are barriers that are preventing them from adopting AI tools. 96% of them say those barriers include their colleagues. And that's a big reason that legal is near the bottom of functions in large corporations at adopting this technology. Because it's not just that there's a lot to getting AI right, and there is quite a lot to getting AI right. It's not just the technology, it's the people. AI has a massive people problem when it comes to its proper implementation. Because what the people want is the magic dispensing machine that does everything perfectly and immediately at no additional cost. And wouldn't that be nice? Except as we've learned, AI is weird. And so, yeah, the magic should probably come with some pretty long terms and conditions. But for all that, and all of these disclaimers are going to lead to some suboptimal behavior. That is what we want, is this. New piece of technology, everything gets better immediately. What we normally see is this. People don't like that the technology costs, and not just costs money. It costs time and attention, patience, something we don't have a lot of. And so often we are unwilling to go through the implementation dip when that's what we really need to do to get to the desired end state. That little blip where we go back to just doing what worked before, that's known as innovation theater. We're absolutely going to see a lot of it around GenAI. I host invite-only roundtables for large law departments and law firms under Chatham House rule, where we get together and talk about what people are actually doing with GenAI, warts and all. At the very first one of these, one of the law departments that I'd been working with on GenAI since the earliest days, we were lucky enough to have GPT-4 access before ChatGPT even dropped. And this is a very large law department of a very large company. They had complete chief legal officer buy-in. They were able to work with the company's own data science team. And the lead lawyer on it actually had a background in AI. He was a technologist before he went to law school. I know, big mistake. This was their version of the J-curve that they showed 1 year into their journey. Where do you think this fully supported, fully funded, sophisticated law department was 1 year into their journey? Right there. They could see the ROI coming, and they've since realized it, but a year in, they did not have positive ROI. How many companies have that kind of patience? And the answer is not very many. In fact, both law departments and law firms, just like everyone else, are suffering from an unfair innovation imperative, where they're being asked to innovate while doing everything else they were already doing, which was already more than anyone could possibly do. This is, just because it's unfair, doesn't mean it's not real. And it doesn't mean that internal resistance is going to be sufficient this time. What's going to change is our balance between perfection and progress, which is so hard for us lawyers to hear. A lot of us lawyers, not that many, but some of us, watched Microsoft Build 2025, which is their big conference on what they're doing with technology. And they showed this thing called Contract Builder, which was just a bunch of contracts thrown into a SharePoint. We overlay AI, and then we ask the agent to write a contract. A lot of lawyers online had a lot of fun with the output because, spoiler alert, it wasn't very good. And so there were a lot of lawyers going online saying, that was terrible. No lawyer would ever give that contract to a client customer. That may be true, but it also suggests that lawyers are at the center of the universe and that lawyers get to decide these things. But that's not how it works. Lawyers tried this. Hey, there's an issue here. You shouldn't do that many times. Lawyers objected to the adoption of email because they said it would be a data security nightmare. Guess what? Lawyers were right. Email is a data security nightmare. And corporations adopted it anyway. AI, like email, is a general purpose technology, and these are subject to compounding supercycles. That is, every cycle builds on the cycle before, which means it comes faster and has a greater impact than the cycle before. We're at the front end of a new cycle. And again, there's going to be lots of bad outcomes, like the data security nightmares that we got with email. That doesn't change the fact that we're going to continue to move in whatever direction we're moving. You can call it forward, you can call it up, you can call it whatever you want, but we're going there. And as we go there, we have to realize that this is the worst AI we'll ever have. So maybe what the contract builder they showed off at Build 2025 doesn't meet the threshold of the business. And again, it's the business that's going to decide for building contracts based on using an AI agent. But maybe the one they show at Build 2027 will, regardless of what we think. This genie is not going back in the bottle. This is a terrible strategy, even if this is a completely reasonable reaction. There is so much noise out there, and there are good reasons to feel like we're running twice as fast to fall behind slower and slower, because GenAI increases that complexity that I talked about. It's going to increase the number of lawsuits. We're not just going to be sued about our use of AI. We're going to have people using AI to sue us when they never could before. It's going to find its way into the workplace in all manner of ways that we don't want it to, and yet it will be there. And so that compounding complexity, it's right here. Because with the AI comes the AI regulation. It's going to come fast. It's going to come weird. We're going to get whiplash as rules are passed and then withdrawn, as they're revoked, as AI introduces all manner of silliness, and yet we know where the money is going. And it's going faster than anything we've ever seen. This is going to change how we work very quickly. Expectations only ratchet in one direction, and that is up. Again, this is the worst AI we'll ever have, and it's moving faster than anything we've ever seen from a technology perspective. The faster it moves, the slower we feel like we're moving on a relative basis. That is, expectations are outpacing reality like never before. Now, I know what you want. I do a lot of consulting for a lot of places, and I know what you want. What you want is the answer. What you want is for me to tell you that one thing that's going to make a big difference and make this so much easier. I'm sorry to disappoint. I actually believe that things are going to get worse before they get better, which is not what you want to hear. And that while we will make progress, it is not going to be linear. It is not going to be a straight line from today to tomorrow, and tomorrow is just going to be better. It's going to be very messy. because we're going to have to move faster than we ever have before, and speed breeds stumbles. We're going to make more mistakes than we ever have, and I know how much we hate it. But the only way to win the race is to be in it. So we're going to have to try. In terms of getting started, I think there are a few better places to start than with actually proven technology that solves real problems. It's a very safe and effective way to start. It's not an end. There is no finish line, but it's a great way to start. So again, apologies that I'm not a time traveler from the near future who can give you all of the answers, but maybe I've helped you frame some better questions.